Hi, this is Ken Smith. I'm Director of Marketing of Connectleader, and I want to welcome you to our webinar today. The title webinar, Supercharge Your Lead Gen with the Power of Installed Technology Data, is being co-sponsored by HG Data and Connectleader. Our speakers today will be Mark Godley, Chief Revenue Officer of HG Data, and Jim Lockery, the SVP of Corporate Development at Connectleader. Just before we get started, just want to go through a couple of housekeeping topics. One is please use the questions tab to ask any questions. Your microphones will be muted during the presentation. We will have a Q&A session at the end of the presentation, but if you do ask a question, we will take a minute to stop and answer that. Also, if you have any problems or technical issues with the presentation, please use the chat panel. The deck presentation is available as a handout under the Handouts tab in a PDF format, and a recorded version of the webinar will be sent to all the attendees at the end of after the webinar finishes. So first, I'd like to start by introducing our speakers today. Mark Godley is the Chief Revenue Officer of HG Data, the global leader in competitive intelligence on installed technology, where he leads the marketing and sales operations. Mark has held leadership positions at technology companies of all sizes and at different life stages, from pre-revenue to publicly traded. And Jim Lockery is SVP of Corporate Development at Connectleader. Jim is responsible for developing strategic partnerships and alliances. A results-driven software industry executive who has held domestic and international sales leadership roles with P&L responsibilities for leading enterprise software companies such as Oracle, Extricity, Versant, and P Software. I'm glad to have both Mark and Jim on the line, and we're going to start things off with Mark taking over.
Thanks for the introduction, Ken. You make me sound much more talented and impressive than I probably am. Hopefully I won't disappoint people too much on the call. I'm excited to join this webinar because I think what Connectleader has built is a real cutting-edge, innovative platform that is just an amazing tool for folks doing outbound. I'm an old school guy that believes talking to folks live is really important, and what Connectleader has done by embedding HG Data's information into their platform is really creating I think a fantastic means by which folks can have meaningful conversations, differentiate themselves, and gain attention in those fleeting few seconds when someone picks up the phone and finds out they have a salesperson on the other line. I want to take a couple minutes explaining what HG Data's set is. For those who are trying to understand how to utilize it within the Connectleader platform. This slide is pretty basic, but I think it tells a good portion of the story, which is HG Data has essentially reverse engineered the hardwares and softwares that are in use in most companies around the globe. We've done this through very modern, bleeding-edge methods. We've done this, you've heard the terms of data science and algorithms and AI and all this stuff that's in vogue. HG's actually been doing this for 10 years before a lot of those catchphrases were around. And the company's been commercially available in market for about the last 4 years. So for a sales rep that's in the technology space, the ability to know before you pick up the phone or before you're connected to someone, knowing consider it the persona, what the tech persona is of a company. For instance, if you find that you compete very well against PeopleSoft or Workday, wouldn't it be nice to know what companies are using those technologies so you can actually maybe build a list that actually talks specifically or goes directly at those companies? Or if you sell a bolt-on to SharePoint, for instance, wouldn't it be interesting when you are talking to someone to be able to weave in to the conversation the fact that you do that? Our technology is all about, or our data sets are all about trying to get information to sales and marketing people at the at a point where you can be relevant and express information that will be most appealing to the person on the other end of your email or in the Connectleader arena on the other end of the phone. Ken, if you'll move to the next slide. This is a pretty slide that talks about the various use cases of our data. It really, our data tends to be used by organizations across the entire buyer's journey. It's used a lot of times by sales ops or marketing ops or analytics teams that are doing analysis, which is doing addressable market calculations, or we're trying to go out, we're thinking about developing this bolt-on SharePoint. What does the SharePoint universe look like? Or man, we really sell well to companies that have migrated from on-prem to cloud. I wish I had a sense of what those companies look like. So that's the market assessment use of our data. And then more downstream and more relevant to probably most of the Connectleader audience is more from a marketing and BDR perspective. Our data is used for what we call, if you remember nothing else I say, these 4 words: precision targeting at scale. That's what we do. We allow, from a marketing perspective, for you to target your digital advertising to be very relevant, in any of your email nurturing to be very relevant. If you're as sophisticated, to do website customization, to actually have your website offer content, which is very relevant. And then as we move more from the branding to the MQL or SQL world, where Connectleader plays very well for those sales reps who are hopping on the phone, talking to suspects or MQLs or SQLs or even people in the sales funnel. Our data is used to ensure that you're asking the right questions, being relevant, and even though every buyer is different, you're able to adjust your messaging in a fashion that tries to ensure that the person on the other end of the phone in those first couple seconds is actually listening to you, as opposed to annoyed that that they're talking to a sales rep. After I guess there's one other piece in here, which is predictive work. Our data is very highly used, and I think Jim's going to talk about how Connectleader is using it in this fashion. Is our data is used for scoring, if you will. If you have a list of 100 people to reach out to, and again, that you're a bolt-on to SharePoint, well, if 60 of those 100 companies have SharePoint, the other 40 don't, you might want to actually focus your efforts on the 60 that do. So stuff like that. That's why what Connectleader has done here is so interesting. And then post-sale, our data is used for upsell, cross-sell, risk assessment, and retention and renewal. So that's kind of the full spectrum of use. Ken, let's go over to one more slide, and if you can, Ken, I'd love to actually show people some of the underlying data. Can you get to a browser? Because if you can, what I can show people is And by the way, if you get bored with what I'm saying, you can go do this on your own while we're doing the call, while I'm talking, not while Jim's talking. But the point is, we have a public portal, which is called our Count Engine on our website, where you can go and explore our data set. Yep, thank you, Ken, for pointing that out on the nav bar. But for instance, Ken, why don't you go down to products and just key PeopleSoft, for instance. Maybe you work for Workday and you compete with PeopleSoft, and you've got a great win ratio. You win 30% of the deals when you're talking to someone that's implemented PeopleSoft. Here's an example of our database. We have 16,500 companies. The number of URLs is companies that we believe are using PeopleSoft. And then locations is, for some organizations, knowing the physical install location of a product and where it's used is very valuable. Maybe your sales process is you like to start talking, instead of calling hi, you talk to users to gain champions, or maybe you have some freemium offering, and so talking to a user and getting them to download something is important. So our data is also available at the location level. So the difference between those two columns is we've got roughly 16,600 companies using PeopleSoft at roughly 50,000 different locations. And then Ken, do one other thing. You'll notice that we organize products into like segments. So we have PeopleSoft organized in our enterprise application category, the human resource and human capital subcategory. And then Ken, just hit the URLs tab for me. Yep. So this is going to show you all the like products like PeopleSoft that we're tracking. So you can see it's ADP, it's Kronos, it's Taleo, and Ken, maybe you can just scroll down a little bit and people can peruse that. But the point is, you can use this count engine to not just look up a product. You can use this count engine to look at segments of products that you yourself may be in here, or you again may compete or collaborate with some of these vendors. Then the last way to actually query this database, we won't do it now, but you can also just look at vendors. So what do we cover for Oracle? What do we cover for HP? What do we cover for Salesforce? And that's the third way you can look at our data, which is that query right there in the middle. Well, actually, go ahead and do it. Why don't you click on Oracle down there, down below, Ken, click on Oracle, and that will then show you all the Oracle products that we track and the numbers. So that's just the three ways to look at our database. So again, feel free to bookmark this or go out here after the call or during the call and play around. Ken, let's go back to the slides, and I think I have one or two more before I turn it over to Jim. And I think the big message here is, this concept of installed technologies. What we're really talking about is what I call the firmographic of the future. Many of you who do segmentation are probably used to traditional methods like how much revenue does a company have, what industry are they in, geographically where are they located. And what HG data is all about is we believe there's all different, there's a whole new set of attributes related to companies that are much more valuable, one of which is tech installs. And so this is an example, and this is showing you kind of, since we commercialized the database, how it has grown. As you'll see here, a couple different themes. One, we started building the data set in the US, we then went to North America, we then went to Asia Pacific, and then Europe. The next data set we're building is Latin America, and so for a lot of technology companies that are, they are founded as global entities, being able to work with a vendor that is global in nature is very important. And then the second theme you'll see here is, if you look down at the bottom, the last area is healthcare. So we've built a healthcare, we've built a technology database, which is again softwares and hardwares in use. We've also built a healthcare database. And to the point I just mentioned a minute ago, again, we think we are figuring out the attributes of organizations that help marketers and sales reps understand them to be able to provide the right messaging at the right time via the right platforms. I've only got one more slide before I turn it over to Jim, which is people look at those numbers on the prior page and say, my God, how did you do this? I mean, like a sales rep has a subscription to LinkedIn, and they're probably on LinkedIn finding this stuff one by one, or you might subscribe to a bunch of RSS feeds, and you stumble upon these little nuggets of information now and again, and you just imagine if you had that at scale, 16,000 users of PeopleSoft as opposed to the 3 you know about because you've got friends that have worked, have worked at companies that have used it. It really has to do with, I mentioned, those modern methods, and I'm not an engineer. I'm not going to be able to walk you through, how we're using MongoDB and AWS and Elasticsearch and all this other fancy stuff that the high-paid propeller heads at HG Data use to do this. But I do think conceptually understanding how we build this is instructive, which is what I said a minute ago. You know some people that work someplace. You're crawling around LinkedIn. You may read the local paper and notice a press release. What we've done is we've taken what a good sales rep does and we've scaled it to have machines do it. So we are literally aggregating press releases globally. We are aggregating newspaper articles globally. We are aggregating resumes globally. We are aggregating blog posts globally. And by grabbing all of this information that is in the public record that we pay for. We pay organizations to aggregate this information for us. We then bring it into our repository. We've converted it all into editable, readable text. And then we run algorithms, which is just a query, just asking a question of that database. And we have contextual logic that knows the difference between someone saying on a blog post, I hate Salesforce, I'm so glad that my company doesn't use them, versus someone saying and asking in a forum, hey, we're implementing Salesforce and I'm running into a problem getting the lead object to push data into Marketo, right? Our IP understands the contextual differences between those two statements, and then obviously we have the technology that can extract that, make sense of it, and turn it into essentially a big Excel file listing 16,000 companies that use PeopleSoft in the example from before. So we've done this on a global scale, and what I'm so thrilled about is not you hearing me talk about the value of HG, but what I want you to really concentrate on is what Jim is now going to talk about, which is how do you make this actionable within one of the most powerful outbound demand gen tools on the planet, which is the Connectleader engine. Jim?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Mark. Appreciate the comments. I think I want to first of all explain to people what really sales acceleration is and what our platform provides. And more importantly, I want to express to everybody that's on the call the excitement that we have at Connectleader to be able to work with an organization like HG Data that really is a critical component in order to making salespeople more productive. So we'll get into that a little bit more here as we go through the slides. But just to make clear for everybody that doesn't already know it, this area that's called sales acceleration is really what kind of sits between CRM and marketing automation. Basically, sales acceleration is what's driving speed and efficiency and predictability in the sales process, in which sales reps are functioning in. And it can consist of a variety of various components, and I'll talk to the ones specifically that apply to our platform. So, Ken, if you could go ahead and advance to the next slide. So, to begin with, this is actually what the Connectleader platform is. It is a series of products and services that's designed to be able to leverage the data that exists within the CRM. Now, one of the biggest challenges that a lot of salespeople have, quite honestly, is really twofold. One is having the right data and be able to have it stay updated so they can be able to contact and be able to lead score and do all kinds of things that's based upon relevant data. And HG data plays a very, very, very important role in that process, okay? Because one of the most unproductive things any salesperson can do is to be able to pursue having a dialogue or emailing or just basically getting in touch with the best opportunities or prospects that they have in their territories. And if you have invalid data or inaccurate data or just outdated information, that takes away a tremendous amount of productivity and leads to, you know, salespeople that all of a sudden become very demoralized and down about the lists and information they're getting from marketing. So what we do, we provide access to data aggregators such as HG data in particular in the area of technology. And what we allow the salespeople to do is when they're trying to reach somebody, and they may not even know who the person is, but they want to reach the chief revenue officer or the chief marketing officer of XYZ company, and they don't know who it is, or they do know who it was, but they're no longer there, we're able to utilize databases such as HG data and through Zoom info, etc. on the technology stack side, HG data. You know, we're looking for somebody that's got you know, the Salesforce CRM. What good does it do your salespeople to be chasing a prospect that if it doesn't, if their product only runs or integrates with Salesforce, why would they be, you know, chasing around opportunities that are, you know, on Zoho? So it's really key having the right data and access to the key data providers and integrate with them so we could really make sure that salespeople are spending their time trying to reach the right people. What we then do, and by the way, when we do update and validate new information or data about a particular company or person, that is automatically then fed back into the CRM, and the contact record information is updated as well. What we've done to be able to further improve the productivity of the salespeople, other than giving them better data, is to give them a predictive sales analytic engine that allows them by rep, or it can be set globally, to sit down and look at key attributes and weigh them. There's about 4 or 5 of them, and it's very simple to do in terms of identifying and weighing those attributes as to what makes up a best targeted prospect for them. And we put this in our predictive sales engine, and we utilize information like from HG data, with the technology stack, how much do you want to weigh that, the person's title and role that they play, how much you weight on that. This is the last time that this has been actually validated, this is the correct information about the person from a contact perspective. Also, because of the years that the last 4 or 5 years at Connectleader, we've been doing millions and millions of dials. So we have a contactability score that figures into our Adaptalytics engine. And what that is based upon is we have a really good idea based upon past calling history, the best likelihood of an individual is to pick up that phone and engage in a conversation. So we take all these various attributes and score them, and we generate what we call a prioritized prospecting list, so that the salespeople don't spend all their time chasing something that's, you know, a so-so prospect, but really spending their effort and time focusing on the ones that really are the best fit for them to be able to win business from. And so that's what we generate, and what we do then is deal with the other issue that really affects sales productivity, and that is about connectivity optimization. in particular in regards to using telephones to have a conversation, to engage in a dialogue with a customer where you could really articulate the value of your solution against what the requirements are. And it's all about trust. At the end of the day, I think it would be great if everybody had nothing but a big lineup of inbound callers requesting to send you a purchase order for XYZ of whatever you're selling. In most cases, the real world doesn't work that way. And people have to really engage with customers. And even if it's a commodity a lot of times, you still have to build a trusted relationship, because that could be what differentiates you from your competition. So we provide a suite of tools that allow you to optimize and increase your ability to connect with your prospects that are in that prioritized prospecting list. We have a click-to-dial capability, which is exactly what it sounds like. We have a product that's personal dialer, that's a power dialer that will allow for much increased productivity when you're trying to do follow-up activities and follow-up calls with people. And then we have what we call our sales development tool or system, Team Dialer, which really amps up the velocity and the numbers of conversations that you're able to have when you're really doing heavy sales development activity, to increase the number of conversations that lead to meetings, that lead to proposals, that lead to closing business. So, you'll also see as a new product that we'll be releasing here at the next month, which is Top Rung, which will provide visualization and gamification for how your salespeople are performing, and make it into a little bit of a competitive visual tool for people to try to amp up their productivity, because most salespeople are relatively competitive. Ken, you want to go to the next slide? So anyway, here's this poor sales guy. How can I be more productive? And guess what? You just can't continue doing the things the way you've done them in the past. There's technology that's available now, and I just shared with you a little bit of that. And this poor guy is demoralized. He's trying to access and reach customers where data is invalid, or he's calling into a company that he thought had Salesforce CRM, or they had an Oracle database, or whatever technology stack they have, and guess what? His data and information is not updated. It's old, and guess what? He spends his time, when he finally gets through to somebody, he realizes, hey, look, they're not really a good prospect, and he wasted his time. So go to the next slide, Ken. So here are the key things that we solve as a sales acceleration platform for the salespeople, and it's very simple. If you look at most inside sales, and probably even a higher percentage or a lower percentage for outside sales, the number of people that actually make quota, it's 66% or less, and I think 66% is being kind. Even when I was at Oracle and we were $1 billion in business, 30% of our salespeople were doing close to 70% of the revenue. And I can assure you, in a lot of other companies, in whatever industries they may be in, you find that it just is not, everybody makes 100%, and everybody does the same. That's not the case. And so what we're trying to do is provide a platform that delivers better targeting through our Adaptalytics to give salespeople the visibility to say, hey, look, based upon the criteria and the attributes that I weighted for my territory, these are the best prospects that I should be trying to reach right now. And here are the people that are more likely than not during the next hour to pick up the phone based upon their past contactability information that we've looked at and analyzed as well. The whole issue of better data, not chasing around, chasing bad information, trying to call people that don't exist, or just not having access to the right information and contact data that you need to be able to reach your prospects. And then the whole thing with the telephony optimization to really give your people the power to reach out and get in touch with that customer, have that conversation, have more of them, and be able to build that trusted relationship that leads to more sales. And you got to be able to do that through outbound activities. Anyway, let's go to the next slide, Ken. I wanted to talk really briefly about a recent case study that was just completed in a company that's growing rather rapidly in Silicon Valley, and we had pulled data and information of what the productivity of their 12 sales development reps were for the preceding year. And we pulled that information, and a lot of it was manual dialing and click dialing. Now understand, under both manual dialing and click dialing, you still have to navigate through the IVRs and the phone trees and deal with, you know, voicemail, deal with gatekeepers. So it isn't merely just the calling of the number. It is having to go through the morale deflating work of going through all these this navigation and then not ending up with anybody on the other end of the phone. So they had these 12 SDRs. They weren't, we told them, and the consulting team that implemented the solution as well, in terms of implementing a new methodology and process, said, you know, we could do more with half the actual full-time employees that you had last year. And so they wanted to deploy the additional headcount into other areas. And after doing some, you know, short, you know, interim tests, they felt comfortable because out of the 12 SDRs they had, guess what? They lost a couple due to people taking new jobs, and then they had 4 others that were just underperforming. So I said, well, let's look at provisioning our people with your platform and approach and see how that plays out. So Ken, could you go to the next slide? So it was very interesting. We had a little bit more cost than they did because this is a combination of personnel and technology. And our overall cost to provision the people with the right technology, as well as their, you know, fully, you know, burden rate of carrying them as employees, came to about $653,000 versus under their old organization, $643,000. So that's a cost or expense comparison. Now we're doing this with half the number of people. Keep that in mind. Let's go to the next slide. Lo and behold, at the end of the year, we actually had built a pipeline that converted into a little bit more than $6 million of revenue, versus in the previous year a little bit more, almost $2.5 million. And guess what? We did that by providing the right technology, not carrying salespeople that aren't very effective because you need their minimal contribution. And what we've done is we've provisioned the best people with the best tools to be able to drive, you know, more conversations, more meetings, more revenue. And so the kind of data that comprised, you know, and compared against what happened the previous year, and then with the next year using the Connectleader platform, you'll see on the next slide. So overall conversations through the use of the technology platform we offer, they increase the number of conversations with half the number of people, from 10,800 to 36,000. The scheduled meetings increase more than threefold. Same things with completed meetings and opportunities. So we had a huge uplift in terms of performance. And guess what? What we're able to do is probably find a better way in which to compensate our best players and to provision them with a tool set and platform that will allow them to really be productive and profitable for the company. So this is a real case study wanted to share with you, and to understand the power that new technology can bring to basically increase the quality of performance of salespeople, and having access to great data so that they spend time on the right opportunities is what makes our relationship with HG Data, I think, all that powerful. So I think our next slide is about questions. So we'll open it up for anybody on the line that has questions of either Mark or myself. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Jim. Great job. Thank you, Mark. So we had just one question about getting a copy of the presentation, which everybody who registered and attended the presentation will receive an email shortly after the webinar with a link to that presentation. And at this point, we don't have any other questions. So I want to thank everybody. If you want to contact either Mark or Jim, please feel free to send an email. Also, if you have any questions about the webinar or need a copy of the recording, please feel free to send an email to marketing@connectleader.com. So thank you very much and have a great day.